Amidst the turquoise waters of the Indonesian archipelago, in a realm where jungle met ocean and volcanoes loomed over fertile plains, a mighty empire rose that would shape the course of Southeast Asian history for more than 2 centuries. The Majapahit Empire, forged in 1293 and lasting until 1527, was not merely a regional kingdom, but a vast naval empire that commanded influence over much of maritime Southeast Asia. Known for its formidable fleets, sophisticated governance, and cultural brilliance, Majapahit remains one of the most illustrious civilizations in the archipelagic world. Often referred to as the island empire of 1,000 ships, its glory continues to echo in Indonesian memory and Southeast Asian identity. The Majapahit Empire emerged from the ruins of the Singasari kingdom after a series of political upheavals and betrayals. It was founded by Raden Wijaya, a Javanese prince with a keen sense of diplomacy and military prowess. His ascent to power was both dramatic and symbolic. The Mongol Yuan dynasty under Kublai Khan had dispatched an invasion force to punish Singasari for defying their authority, but Wijaya masterfully turned the situation to his advantage. Initially pretending to cooperate with the Mongols, he later launched a surprise attack on their forces, successfully driving them out of Java in 1293. This victory marked the birth of the Majapahit Empire, a moment of defiance that defined the empire's spirit for generations to come. At its zenith under the legendary Prime Minister Gajah Mada in the 14th century, Majapahit extended its influence far beyond the borders of Java. Gajah Mada, a brilliant strategist and statesman, pledged in his famous Sumpah Palapa oath that he would not taste any spice until he had unified the entire archipelago under Majapahit rule. This oath was not merely symbolic. It represented the empire's ambition for pan-regional dominance. Under his leadership, Majapahit's sphere of influence stretched across present-day Indonesia, including Sumatra, Borneo, Bali, Sulawesi, the Maluku Islands, and even extended to parts of the Malay Peninsula, southern Thailand, and the Philippines. The empire wielded power not through direct conquest alone, but also through a complex network of vassal states, alliances, and tribute systems, anchored by its commanding naval strength. Majapahit's dominance over the sea lanes was the lifeblood of its empire. With thousands of islands scattered across the archipelago, control of the seas was essential. The empire developed an enormous navy composed of agile Jong ships, massive wooden vessels capable of carrying hundreds of warriors or tons of cargo. These ships were marvels of maritime engineering, built without nails, using hardwood and lashings, and equipped to withstand the treacherous monsoon-driven seas. Naval might allowed Majapahit to enforce trade monopolies, deter piracy, project military power, and maintain connections with distant tributary states. The image of 1,000 ships sailing under the Majapahit banner was not an exaggeration, but a testament to its logistical and technological capabilities in mastering maritime Southeast Asia. Commerce was central to Majapahit's prosperity. Strategically located along the trade routes between China, India, and the Islamic world, the empire became a vital node in the global maritime Silk Road. Ports such as Tuban and Gresik became bustling centers of trade where Javanese goods, rice, spices, textiles, and precious woods were exchanged for Chinese ceramics, Indian fabrics, Arabian horses, and Persian luxury items. The cosmopolitan nature of Majapahit's cities reflected its role in international trade. Foreign merchants, envoys, and even scholars frequented its harbors, bringing with them new ideas, beliefs, and technologies. This cultural exchange enriched Majapahit's own traditions, giving rise to a dynamic and syncretic civilization. Majapahit was also a cultural beacon in the region, renowned for its art, literature, and architecture. The empire's elite patronized monumental architecture, building grand temples and palaces that showcased both Hindu-Buddhist cosmology and indigenous artistic sensibilities. The Candi Tikus, a royal bathing temple, and the great terracotta sculptures found across East Java reflect a deep appreciation for ritual, aesthetics, and engineering. Literature flourished, with poets and scholars composing works in Old Javanese and Sanskrit. One of the most celebrated literary achievements of the era is the Nagarakretagama, a poetic chronicle composed by the court poet Prapanka in 1365, which provides invaluable insights into the political structure, territorial extent, and cultural values of Majapahit. It described a world where gods and kings coexisted, where justice was sacred, and where the empire's dominion stretched as far as the imagination allowed. Religion in Majapahit was pluralistic and tolerant, reflecting the syncretic ethos of the empire. Hinduism and Buddhism coexisted and often merged, particularly in the state ideology that promoted the king as a divine ruler, an incarnation of both Hindu deities and Buddhist bodhisattvas. The spiritual flexibility of Majapahit allowed it to accommodate various belief systems, making it easier to integrate diverse cultures and communities within its borders. Local animistic traditions continued to thrive alongside state-sponsored Hindu-Buddhist rituals, creating a uniquely Javanese religious landscape. This fusion is visible in temple carvings, ceremonial practices, and royal iconography. The Majapahit court was a center of refinement, ritual, and political maneuvering. The king, or Raja, presided over a complex bureaucracy that included ministers, governors, judges, and scribes. Court ceremonies were elaborate affairs, involving sacred dances, shadow puppet plays, wayang kulit, and offerings to the gods. Behind the pageantry lay a well-organized system of governance. Local rulers were allowed a degree of autonomy as long as they paid tribute and acknowledged the supremacy of the Majapahit monarch. Diplomacy was often preferred over direct conquest, and emissaries were frequently dispatched to manage relations with foreign states and vassals. This decentralized yet cohesive structure helped the empire manage a geographically fragmented domain while maintaining overall unity. However, like all empires, Majapahit was not immune to decline. The seeds of its downfall were sown from within. After the death of Gajah Mada and later the revered King Hayam Wuruk, internal succession disputes erupted, weakening the central authority. Provincial rulers became increasingly independent, and the once formidable navy could no longer enforce imperial will with the same vigor. The rise of Islamic sultanates in Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula further challenged Majapahit's dominance. These new polities, such as the Sultanate of Malacca, controlled key maritime trade routes and attracted Muslim merchants, shifting the economic balance of power. Islam gradually spread into the heart of Java, altering the religious landscape and eroding the Hindu-Buddhist cultural foundations of Majapahit. By the early 16th century, the empire had become a shadow of its former self. A series of invasions and rebellions culminated in the fall of the capital city to the Demak Sultanate in 1527, effectively marking the end of Majapahit. Yet its legacy did not vanish with its collapse. The idea of a unified archipelagic state inspired later nationalist movements in Indonesia. Symbols of Majapahit, its red and white banners, its maritime prowess, and its mythic kings, were invoked during Indonesia's struggle for independence in the 20th century. Even today, the Garuda, Indonesia's national emblem, draws from Hindu mythology and the symbolism of Majapahit, reflecting an enduring cultural memory. The Majapahit Empire stands as a testament to the power of maritime civilization. Its ability to unite a vast array of islands, cultures, and peoples under a single imperial umbrella was a feat unmatched in Southeast Asian history until modern times. It was an empire built not on static land borders, but on moving seas, a thalassocracy that understood the rhythms of the ocean and the wind. Its rulers were not merely kings, but sea lords, whose fleets of 1,000 ships carried the message of their supremacy across the archipelago. Majapahit's glory lies not only in its conquests and administration, but in its vision of unity, cultural richness, and tolerance. It was an empire of poets and warriors, merchants and mystics, builders and sailors. In an era when kingdoms rose and fell like the tides, Majapahit charted a bold course across history, leaving behind ruins of red brick, golden legends, and the memory of an island empire that once dreamed of ruling the seas.